Welcome to the 124th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast with your host, Nick from MPG Creations, Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, and Josh, myself, from North Country Woodworking. We're going to go ahead and see what's happening in the shop, starting off with Nick. Maybe he has the CNC done, maybe not. We're going to find out.
Oh, so I got good news, guys.
The CNC's built. No, yes, no, yeah.
No, but I've got good news, guys. I'm getting caught up on. I'm into November now on my orders. So
Plumbuses
are being made with all the schleem, and even when the Grumbos show up and they spit on it, you have to watch the reel if you.
And if you don't know Rick and Morty, yeah.
Anyway, my progress is being made. I have another order to be dropped off at Garrison Brothers this weekend. I'm going to head down there. Then on Sunday, I'm going to head on over to see Ducky from Ducky's Mesquite down in Santa Maria. And other than that, yeah, I'm just going to keep pounding out these orders, trying to get completely caught up. So I mean, like, the goal here is to be job free before Christmas. And I'm not trying to, like, that's saying any jobs that I currently have. I won't take any jobs that will be due in December right now. You know what I mean? Everything has to be around December. So I took one job that's due December 1st, but that, I have everything to do beforehand. I got to mail it off on like the 25th or something like that. And then of November. And then after that, I'm not doing any work in December, hopefully. I say that, but if somebody comes offer me a few bills for something, you never know. I might just do it. But who knows? Anyway, I've got people inquiring about different projects. And you remember last week when we talked about, was it on the podcast or was it on? Yeah, so we were on the Makers Lounge pod. If you don't know, we were on the Makers Lounge podcast. It should be dropping this weekend on Veterans Day. Me, Nap, and Josh were on it for the Veterans Day episode. But we talked about pricing and getting customers to basically pay what we want for our items that we produce. And I've had to do some verbal judo this week to get people to
listen, you could pay a cheaper price if you want something that's going to fall apart in 2 days.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I had to explain to them, like, look, it's just me in the shop. I don't really have any help except for when I hire my brother, but he's not full time. He's hit or miss whether or not he's going to be here.
It's like anything, man. You just got to rip that Band-Aid off and let them know.
Well, I tell them straight up, it's got to benefit both of us. Like, you want this, I want to make you this, but I want you to pay me what I believe that it's worth and the labor and all that stuff. So, so fortunately, I have such a large array of things right now that I can make, or that I have the potential to make, that people have something in every price range that they could choose from if they want to. Now, obviously, you're not going to get all the bells and whistles and lights and gadgets on something that's not as expensive, but you're still going to get a quality product. So I start anywhere from like a plaque, ranging anywhere from like $80 to $150, all the way to a flag or a shadow box, and that's shadow boxes and trunks are usually the big high dollar items. So I think that's pretty much it going on in the shop. I'm just turning out Christmas ornaments. That's what I'm doing right now while we're on the podcast. So what do you got going on there, Nap? Or in Joey Steelblade's terms, hey, Naps, what do you got going on?
Yeah. So those boards are done finally. They're getting packed up tonight, shipped out, and out of my shop. I never want to see them again. It's not that I didn't enjoy doing the project. It took entirely too long. When you don't have a deadline like that, okay, that's like one of my biggest things. If you don't give me a deadline, I'm going to take, most of the time, if it's an easy task, I'll get it done quick. But if it's a production piece, like, you got to make 12 of these and 4 of these. Yeah, I took my sweet time with that. Not going to lie. It was some days that had no motivation to go do the same thing over and over, and then other days it did. And then there was also that 450 glasses I had to etch, which was really even worse, which really killed the motivation to do anything else. But then I started getting back in the shop more and more this past week, which was kind of cool because I got to make these things. They're stool of the triad is what I'm going to call it, because they're three-legged stools. And for those that don't know, in the military triad, there is your commander, your first sergeant, and your senior enlisted leader, which is typically a chief. In some places, for some reason, it won't be a chief because the person needs to go a line number for promotion, or there's just no chief there, which is not very typical, but it does happen. So I have one of those right here. So the guy's going to pick them up tomorrow. So if you're a patron, you can see this. So that's the top of it. It's for the 705th. And then on each leg, there's, their names and their stuff. And then on the bottom, they said, hey, put the message on the bottom. So there it is.
I like that.
So I made two of those. And then because
What are they going to be used for?
Which way are they going to sit on it?
Listen, if they sit on these, I'm going to be... I literally asked. Like, I asked this specifically, are they for show or are they for sitting? And they said for show. So if they sit on these, it's on them. They paid their money already. I'd say, well, actually, so the funny thing is had they asked for them to be, sturdy enough to sit on, obviously, because of the way they're angled, I would have had cross braces on there. Things would have been joined together to give it extra durability. And honestly, if it had that stuff in there, they'd be perfectly good stools to sit on. But right now, the only person that might be able to sit on those is my son, who's about 50 pounds. And that's about it. And that's what they're meant for. They're meant to sit there and put maybe a reward or something on it. And that's really about it. But I got to make those, which was pretty cool. I looked at a picture and I said, okay, how am I going to make these? It took me about 25 minutes to just figure something out on the old CNC or Vectric and get it all situated. And then off to the races I was. I didn't have any 8-quarter, so I ended up gluing some 13/16s together, which you can hardly tell because of the way, I put the legs. The legs are, face grained out, so you can't even see the sides. And even then, some of the legs you can't even tell they're two pieces of wood, which is pretty cool. So there's that. I finally got the final details on these miniature shadow boxes I'm doing. I'm doing 4 of them out of my favorite wood in the world, Select Pine. Because they're being painted. And I'm not painting cherry. I'm not painting any of the other hardwoods in my shop. I will paint the softwood called pine. I don't want to, but whatever. Just going to do it. And
Poplar.
They want them so poplar's cool, but I got to keep my bottom line down because here, again, it's not like where you're at, where poplar might be a little bit cheaper. It's not here. It's god-awful expensive. Now, if I go to Menards and they happen to have random length and width, and they got the stuff I'm looking for, okay, possibly. But right now, it's looking like I'm going to use... So not your typical pine. So I don't know about you guys, and maybe we can talk more about this later, but you typically look for your regular squared-up boards. You got the nice Select whatever pine. They call it Select Pine, but really it's just expensive pine without knots in it. I actually looked at some stuff at Home Depot, just online Home Depot. They have pine stair runners that are 12 inches wide, that are 48 inches long or wide. So 12 inches wide if you're up and down, 48 inches tall, and 1 inch thick, which is really more like 3/4. That was $14.44 here. Which is like a quarter of the cost of a piece of Select Pine, and it's the width I need it. And chances are it's actually harder than the regular pine you get from the Select lumber area. So I'm going to give that a whirl and see how it works, considering, again, I'm just painting it, so it's not like anything special needs to be done or any real care has to be taken with that. But anyways, so that's done there. I didn't realize that military child medals, like the ones for the kids, when people retire, them shits are $25 a piece. I went looking everywhere. I'm like, there is no way that this is how much these are. There's no other place to find them but like a couple places. I looked at the regular military medal stores. I'm looking on base. They're like $25. I'm just like, Jesus. Okay, well. So I told this guy, I told him 100 to 125 initially per thing. You better believe I went max because 25 of them dollars are coming straight from the metal. I've already got my acrylic here, so it's money already spent. The only thing I need to do is get the pine. I've got the felt. I've got corkboard. I've got all that stuff.
You've got corkboard?
I do, from your favorite place, Wally World. So that is for that project. And then I recently got tasked with a a job to make a going away for one of my buddies back in San Antonio. It's actually for John Davis, which is pretty cool. I taught him a bunch of stuff, and then he made me 2 things before I left for my promotion. So I'm getting to make him something. It's going to be like a wall mountable coin rack. And he doesn't listen to the podcast, so he doesn't even know. Even if he did hear this, I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but I was working on a practice piece for it. And if you're a patron, you can see it, and I won't say what it is, but just know I think it looks pretty cool so far. But that's just a 1/16 version of it. So that'd be pretty cool when I actually get to do it. I'll probably use some of the favorites, but they are paying good money for it. So I have no problem throwing a couple extra things in there, like walnut runners for the coin trays and stuff like that. So, see, that's those going on. I'm waiting for the one family to move, or my buddy and his wife to move into their new house before they send me the stuff for his Shadows box, and that's that Hap Arnold Shadow box. And then the one for back at the academy where Nick works, he hasn't really communicated too much with me, which is kind of frustrating because I don't know exactly when his retirement is, but I know it's not like tomorrow, but it's definitely coming up soon, and I would really like to get started on his. Because I would really hate for him not to have a shadow box for his.
Who are you talking about?
Keith.
Oh, yeah.
When is
we to get him on the line?
Yeah. Hey, Keith, you're on the Sawdust Nation Podcast. When you going to get that there shadow box details to Nat?
Welcome on the podcast there, Keith. Hey, so quick question. Why haven't you paid your invoice yet? No, I'm just playing.
Can we do that to customers?
Yo, that would be freaking funny. Like Sawdust Nation gone wild.
1 minute of shame.
But yeah, so that's what's going on in the shop. Now, I love showing the patron stuff when they watch. So I gotta grab something real quick. It's right over here.
Wait, this episode is rated
Jesus,
R.
this thing's massive. Oh, look at it! It's just so huge. Okay, so this
big old girthy thing Nap's got in his hand.
Yeah,
is that your vibrator, Nap?
Yeah, if you
mean
my 2.2, yeah, the 2.2 kilowatt spindle, this thing weighs all of like 30 pounds. Like not even joking around.
It's got that 2.2 kilowatt French tickler up there.
Yeah, sure does. All right, so I got that, but then you got to see this PWNC.
Is that water cooled?
Yeah, it is.
You gotta have a water. Okay, never mind. I'm not even making a joke.
Yeah,
plugging it in. He's got a VFD for it. That's how
I do. You're right. I gotta alter the frequency when it gets a little crazy in here. But hey, so Daniel went and took it another step further. And again, if you're a patron, you get to see this. But here's his enclosure that he's got going on here. It came installed. It's got the easy plug and play on that side. Easy plug and play on this side.
Those are nice.
Yes. So these hook right up to a mod bus. It's got the IoT relay. So I actually have the IoT relay plugin. I get to hook this up to my vacuum. So when I start my CNC, it starts everything for me. It'll turn vacuum on, spindle on, everything, and just run. And then when it's done, it turns it all off. So there's really not a whole lot I have to do other than be there and put the piece on the damn CNC, which is pretty awesome.
Look, give Daniel some time. He's getting there.
Yeah, he'll have a damn robot just built like, here's your... Well, actually, you know who's got something like that? Not obviously automated, but if you have seen Izzy Swan, he's got like, what is it? This like vacuum suction handle for like 4x8 pieces of plywood, picks that sucker right up out the ground and loads it onto his, he got a Phantom CNC? And I'll tell you what, yeah, you automate that thing, woo, that'd be pretty cool. Just
actually,
just go ahead and do all that.
I believe he has. He has automated where it reaches down, grabs it, and puts it right on the CNC. I've seen a video of it. I don't know if he's selling anything like that, but it's definitely, knowing him, it's probably ran by a drill.
I'll tell you what, he makes some really cool stuff. But yeah, I've been watching some of that stuff more lately, just because I was like, when I have a bigger shop and I don't feel like picking up these big old pieces of plywood or doing some of the things that he's talking about making stuff for like us garage hobbyists, because he's got another project in the works, which I think is pretty cool. But I'm not too educated on it, so I don't want to talk too much on it. But the lifting of the plywood was definitely really cool. But yeah, so Daniel's probably working on something similar, but with actual robots. Who knows? I know he's got some other enclosures and stuff on that he's talking about on his page.
He's going to beat out Musk when it comes to the robot game.
I tell you what, if he does, we'll be right there with him, which will be pretty awesome. Getting to see it all happen here first, which is awesome. See, is there anything else I got going on here? No, I mean, not really entirely. I mean, just did those stools in like 2 days. I'm about to start rocking out shadow boxes just because, well, I got orders for them now, so now I'm going to go do those. And, Instagram. Started posting a little bit again. I got to say, and I took this one pretty easy just because I knew it was coming, and they were also pretty courteous. But I definitely had my kid help me on the router table, like for a matter of 23 seconds. We were just doing a round disc on the router. Excuse me. And he was doing a really good job, and everything was good. Kept his hands in the right place and everything. But there's one thing we forgot to put on: our damn safety glasses. And of course, there's always that one person, two people in this case, that go, "Hey, not to be, mean or not meaning anything, by it, but, good job with the hands and blah, blah, blah. But you both forgot your glasses." Now, okay, for my kid, sure. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm stubborn as a mule. I probably won't wear glasses on a damn router table. Sorry. Because typically it's got suction. It's got some kind of vacuum that's pulling all the stuff away. And I'm not sitting here taking off, like half inches at a time. I'm taking off like eighth, maybe a quarter, which is like slivers of wood. So, call me unsafe if you want. For my kid, sure, he should have glasses on. But for me, listen, if I get my eyes, well, that's on me. So,
hindsight's 2020, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I knew as soon as I posted it too. I was like, you know what? I remember Matt Voltner having issues with just sanding. I could just see this happening now. So it happened. But hey, it's good for engagement, right? But that's really it. It was good stuff. Had fun, this past couple days in the garage. Things are better at work. Yeah, we'll just say that. Things are better at work. It's not as crazy, but still busy. Things are getting better. Yeah.
I'm ready. Oh, hey, did you see the flag that John Davis made?
Dude, that thing's pretty nice. All that curl.
He's got burl, curl, and a whole bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, he's giving it away, or it's for a job. I thought he was making it for himself. But it's gorgeous. Check out Why Not Woodworks on Instagram.
He's come a long way.
Yeah, so they didn't want a border on that thing either. I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, so it looks really nice. Did they not want a border?" And he goes, "No, I was getting ready to put a Sapelli border on it, and they said they liked it just like that." So he's like, less work for me. I was like, well, yeah, good man. But yeah, what about you, Josh? What you got going on, man?
Well, I almost finished a project last week. I say almost because I went and did the CNC part. I had Ormask on there. I spray painted a little part, and then I came in and went to go paint it and realized that the spray paint soaked right through the grain into the other parts, and some of it needed to be regular wood. So it was a stupid mistake on my part. I have to reaccomplish. I'll be doing that here probably tomorrow, getting the glue up and reaccomplishing it. Thankfully, it's not necessarily due right away, so pretty good with that. I had a last minute order. They called yesterday and they're like, "Hey, we need this done by Wednesday afternoon." I'm like, "Great, give me the information. I'll give you a price and we'll get that done." So I texted them back today and they're like, "Oh, no, we're good." They just weren't going to tell me that the job was off, so that was cool. I hate that when a customer does that. You tell me it's last minute. I'm pretty much going to do what I can to work with you. And then you go and, it's fine. They went somewhere else or they got something else from somewhere, but just let me know, what I'm saying? Cause I'm starting to schedule stuff at home, with the wife, like, "Hey, I got a last minute order. I got to be working this." And, for not to tell me. It's kind of a dick move, but whatever. It happens. Let's see here. Also having trouble getting paid for a project.
Really? Did you already do it?
So here's the deal. They actually ordered 2 projects from me. They said that they more expensive project. I did. I said, hey, it's only by $20 more expensive.
Yeah, but I mean, $20 is $20, my man.
Well, no. So there was 2 projects. One was 100, one was 120. And I'm like, hey, I think you paid the wrong invoice, and I know you needed it right away, so here it is. I gave it to them, and they're like, okay, we'll pay the other one. And I keep asking them. They're like, oh, I've been busy, blah, blah, blah. Because the other project isn't due right away. It's kind of like whenever I get to it type deal. And it seems like that's the same for that invoice. So I thought, I can give someone the benefit of the doubt. But
you thought.
Yeah. So every time I try to go do something nice for someone, yeah, that's what happens. So yeah, I'm not too happy with that, especially because every time they say, hey, just send me a reminder and I'll pay it. I do. And it doesn't get done. So I'm probably going to get cheated out of $20. They say they want more projects from me, but we'll see. And if they do, I'll charge them the extra $20 in another project and let them know what it was for. But yeah, dealing with that, I'm not too, like I said, pleased about that. But the cool stuff that's happening in the shop. So, last, 6 months, I've been talking about a lot of design work, a lot of stuff I'm trying to get accomplished. And I was talking to a coworker, and they're like, have you ever tried a drawing tablet? And I'm like, I wasn't quite sure what they meant, but it's not necessarily a tablet. It's like a pad. So it's this black pad that it's like a mouse. You got a nice little pen, and you can go ahead and draw whatever you want, and you can make SVGs and stuff like that. So what I've been doing is I've been doing silhouettes of planes that are hard to find. And eventually, once I perfect the design, I'll be selling those on my page, hopefully later this month. And so no more, hopefully, having to buy designs. I'm even trying to start doing patches and stuff like that, and try to narrow down the cost window that I have. Because right now, I do use a pretty great reputable source. It charges me $20 to vectorize image into an SVG. But if I could do it myself and save $20, or just make that $20 in my pocket and then charge other people to do that same thing, why not? It's in my wheelhouse. I know how to design, and I think I'll be opening up designing logos as well. Let's see how that goes.
Hey, you want to send me those planes? I'll buy those planes from you. I want those planes.
Okay. Well, just remind me afterwards if we can figure that out.
Yeah, we'll talk.
In addition, I've also been talking about shipping and how I'm trying to streamline that process. And I've been using a kitchen scale to measure my packages. And I said no more. So I bought myself a good scale. It goes up to 90 pounds. So it should last me and do much more work service than the last one. And then I also got myself a thermal label printer so that I can go ahead and print the labels that way, because I keep running out of ink on my printer, and then I have to go to UPS and they'll print it for me. But if I go to USPS, they won't. So now I don't have to worry about that. And the great thing about this is I can print my own stickers. So that's a plus. I can do square or round and save a little cash. Of course, they're not going to be as quality as some of the sticker companies out there, but it might do for like on packages and random stuff like that. So been doing that. Got some designing and 3D printing completed. I had an order for 6 sander holders. So basically the ones that you drill in the wall and you put your sander on. I've got 6 of those going out for the 6-inch discs. So one person ordered that, and then I'm also doing a zero clearance dust collection insert for the Bosch. I love that tape measure.
I'm sorry.
It's one of my favorite tape measures. I don't know. Anyway, sidetracked. I haven't really been in the shop too much, to be completely honest. We just had our 11th year anniversary on the 7th, which is yesterday. And so kind of spent some time with the wife and the kids, and we went out to eat. And then this weekend we bought a hot tub. one of the blow up ones for the back, and I'm just getting that set up and ready to go. And temperature's starting to
You
drop.
just put it upstairs, man. You guys be all right.
Yeah, I don't trust this building. If I go right through the ceiling, man.
Could you imagine calling the housing office, being like, "Yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah, pretty
The
much.
Upstairs is now the downstairs."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What happened?"
It's happened actually in housing. Someone's bathtub and like pretty much the whole bathroom fell through the ceiling here, and yeah, some crazy stuff. Yeah. So it's outside. We're setting that up. I finally it's getting up to temperature. It's one of the blow points, so it doesn't. It takes a while for it to go to the right temperature.
Oh, you turned it on tonight?
Oh, I turned it on yesterday,
and it's still on.
Yeah, trying to get it up to that 104 nice temperature, and you gotta realize though, because like at night it drops down to like 30 degrees here. So like,
oh yeah.
You just stop it right there. You just stop it.
Well, right now, I mean, like we haven't got any snow, but what I'm basically trying to get at is when I poured the water in, it was already like, I don't know, it's like 60 degrees and dropping, and the water was colder than that. So it's had a lot of catch up. It's like 220 gallons to get warm and pump through. So it's not like, the hard shell ones where, it'll probably take much less time.
Well, at least you don't have to pay a water bill or an electric bill to heat it, that, mind you.
Exactly. So once that's up to the temp, and if it's tonight, I'll be going in there. I'll turn the lights on and everything, get some wine and soak in there.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, it's really fun. Hot tub time machine.
Sick now.
So we're pretty excited about that. I've been wanting one.
You going in there by yourself, Josh?
If the wife's up for it. And no, it's not out cold. If you ever watch that film, it's funny. Don't watch it with your kids, though. Let's see. Yeah, I've been busy with other stuff, work and everything else, and anniversary, and then the hot tub. I haven't really set much in the shop. I've done a couple small projects in testing. I have a client that wants me to do like a 36-inch name, and I try to. It is. I tried to do a sample on acrylic and show them, and they weren't a fan. So it looks like it's going to be wood.
Not a fan of the acrylic. What kind?
So they want like a gold acrylic. So what I did is I took clear and I painted the back and I showed them, and I think it looks really cool. Like I would love to do a project in the house like that. But they already have some pieces that have been done in wood already, and they don't want to get away from what they already have, which I respect. So I'm going to go ahead and carve that out in wood and give that to them. I was going to do MDF. I still might, but I kind of hit a setback with that. So I ordered that kit from American Photonics, and I ordered the wrong one. Yeah, it was too small. I had to go larger.
She said.
So the shaft on the focal lens was too small, and when I went in there, it would hit all sides, and I took it out, and I'm like, yeah, I got to order something bigger.
Yeah,
and
you're hitting both sides, and it's too small.
Yeah, and I called American Photonics, and their customer service was awesome. They're like, yeah, we've heard of this problem before. You just got a larger shaft, and told me what size to get, and I ordered the right size. So to be fair, on OMTech's website, I went by what they said, and I might have mixed the measurement around because there's a 20 and 25 millimeter measurement. And so regardless, I got the right one coming to me. It should be here Thursday, so a couple of days. And I'll set that 2.5 in there and maybe even the 4 and go ahead and cut that out easy. I'm pretty excited about that because I've already tried the half-inch MDF, and I was able to cut it out pretty cleanly with what I have already. So I can only imagine the capability I'm about to have.
Beaming with possibilities.
Yes, I will be. Yeah, so it's going to be great. I can't wait to, be able to do really fine engraving or cut through thicker materials and just really dial in the laser in the fact of like, I'm not going to be just using one lens. I'll have 4 to choose from. So that's going to be a game changer in the shop. I really think that's going to change how I do everything. So,
hey, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do mean to interrupt because I just remembered this. Have you ever gone to the post office with your entire back seat full of packages? Or not the post office, but UPS to drop stuff off?
And then they look at you like you're crazy? Yes, I have.
I parked in the fire lane and put my hazards on because it's like 40, 50 feet from the fire lane to the door of the post office or the UPS store. And I had like 4 shadow boxes plus some other things to mail off today. Man, people were like mad at me that I was parked there. I was like, what do you want me to do? Carry all this stuff across the darn parking lot? There's no parking spaces except in the back of the parking lot. You know what I mean? Anyway, so.
Just be a man. Carry it all at once from the parking lot.
I almost hired a busboy to do it.
I'm a man.
A grocery cart. I almost stole a grocery cart from next door. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm just saying, but in this chat right now, that the GF can be taken as Glowforge or something else. Just saying. Based on the conversation we just had.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, also, what'd y'all think of those lights on that shadow box, man? You gonna start doing that?
So I had contemplated on doing something like that, but I have a different design method for it. Like you did great on it. I just have a different design method, I think, for it. The outside ones, you did the outside and inside, didn't you?
Well, so it was originally just supposed to be the inside, and the strand was so long that I was like, I could wrap this around the top, out the bottom, around the top, and then all down to the other side to hook the battery box. And I did it to where, like, if you're staring dead at it, you can't see the strand because of the facade is too wide. But if you turn it on, it has like that back glow, and it has a French cleat, so it sits flush against the wall. But if I could do it again, and that was in the plan, that wasn't in the plan. That was like an audible.
Oh,
but if I could do it again, I would probably mount the lights on the back of the facade.
So I don't know how feasible this is, just because this is a limiting factor probably on the design I'm thinking of, is when you have the sidewalls, I've done the channeling so you can hide the lights so they're not like the strip isn't exposed. It kind of keeps it contained rather. So
they were channeled.
Was it channeled in the back?
On the outside?
Yeah,
it was a pretty deep channel too. It's just when you go to and I tried to do it forward as I could. But you also got to worry about some other things like hardware. Like if you run pin nails through your facade into through the stripes too. Now I have short pins, but I also like to run a few pin nails after I use glue to glue the facade down to the frame. But I also like to run a couple pin nails in there because I had a malfunction at one point in time, and Josh, you remember because you had to fix that.
Yep. I mean, like, I have a ton of tolerance when I do mine where it's like I literally have to pop them in, and I have trouble getting them out. So I don't pin nail them like I used to, but that took a little bit of trial and error too. I do like how you did it. I'm just not a fan with it outside. That's personal preference. Inside, I think they look great. I do have a question about your shadow box though. Why did I think it was a master and then you had A1C below it? What was the?
Yeah,
that's what the order called for.
Were they demoted? I mean, was it a joint one like wife and husband?
Yeah, it was a wife who got out.
Okay,
back when she was an A1C.
Yeah, you don't need to really dive into it. I just wanted to.
But I mean, like she followed her husband around the rest of his career, so he retired. But she had one to commemorate her service as well. But I made them so you can hang one from the other, or you can hang them both side by side or separate if you wanted to.
That confused me a little bit. I thought like maybe they got out and they went reserves and got promoted quite a few times. I don't know. Who knows? But
no, he got court-martialed. He was a master. He retired as high 3. No, I'm playing. And then he got demoted to.
I was like, dang.
He got out of it. No, I'm playing. That's not true, but still.
Well, who knows? You never know. But yeah. So turned out good, man. I'm glad that I stopped on Instagram to get to see that. Also, was pretty cool seeing Nap with his son doing his thing. You were lucky, I think, when it comes to the comments. They were very nice about it. Usually, people are not so.
People get ratchet.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, as far as like going back to the shop, I'll wrap that up real quick. I'm just doing a whole bunch of random stuff at this point. I'm trying to get my digital game down so I can go ahead and start selling SVGs. My 3D printing, I'm about to list a couple things, especially after the order and interest I've had. I actually have to order some more filament. And what else? My shipping game, I'm really trying to get working on that. I'm almost got to a point where, for the most part, except for my shadow boxes and that sort, I have all the 3 different sizes for my items. So I can either order a box with my logo on it already, or I can at least order like a white box and then create my logo on there and have a little more professional look to it. So I'm getting there. I got some tools and different things that help me get there. I'm learning them now. I'm learning a different program that I haven't used before. I've tried with this pad I tried Inkscape, messed around in Lightburn, but I wasn't doing very well with that because of the interaction between the two. So I went with more of graphic design software, Affinity Designer. It's like a $50 program, but it's like a mashup of like CorelDRAW and like Inkscape. So it's a little cheaper version, and I'm kind of getting through it. So, but yeah, exciting stuff on my end. I know it's not really woodworking per se, but it's things that will hopefully pay off in the long run, because we always talk about, we want to do this when we retire. So I need multiple revenues, and, I think I have a lot to learn in woodworking, but I'm trying to diversify and get myself set up so that I can ship my stuff so that it's essentially it looks professional. I have 3 different boxes. Anything bigger than the 3rd large box, I can go ahead and just have the shipping company do it for me. And then, be selling digital copies of stuff and getting some money that way. So if anyone has any insight on the digital side, I would take it, because it is definitely a new realm, and using this instead of a mouse is what you think would be much easier. It's actually a little bit difficult, and getting used to it is taking a moment. But I did make, like I said, a couple silhouettes, and they turned out great. I have a technique now, and it's working out. So, but yeah, a lot going on, just not so much in the shop. But what do you guys got for our topic so we can jump on that?
I actually do have something. So, like I kind of touched on earlier. So typically when we're looking for, I'd say when we're watching out for a bottom line, sometimes we look for things that can fit our needs but don't cost as much. So, for example, when I was talking about like trying to find, the pine, a wide enough pine board for these mini shadow boxes, but not spending an arm and a leg, I'm going to buy stair runners for it. Or like, for example, with Nick and I's shadow boxes, we do the cork board from Walmart, because it's like $12 for, that. And you can get maybe 1, 2, maybe even 2, depending on how big shadow boxes out of it. So, well, like, what are some things other than those things that you guys maybe use that aren't like your typical material? If you could think of any off the top of your head.
Like things I put into other projects?
Yeah, like things you use that aren't like meant, okay, like the cork board. You would normally put that on a wall and you'd put stuff on it, right? But we take it apart and we use it for our project. Like, what are some things you guys do that might not be seen as like normal use, but rather for your projects?
No, I mean, it's normal use for us. Well, I guess
just for people out there that make stuff, like what are some things they can use that maybe would shrink their bottom line?
Material. It's not material. It's a tool, but a paint scraper, one of the metal ones. I usually sharpen that, and I use it to scrape glue and my work surfaces. And it's like a cheap chisel that I can get away with. Removing some material, glue, that sort. That's not uncommon for people to do that. A lot of people do that, but it's definitely something I didn't know about when it first started. Oh, you, Nick?
I use quite a few different items throughout the process. Like, You know the brackets to hold door banister or stairwell banisters up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I use the brackets for hat hangers on some of my projects.
Okay.
You can place a hat on it. It's got a mounting plate with the door banister mount like welded to it, so you can just like screw that into your whatever. I don't know, man. Obviously I use plexiglass a lot or acrylic for multiple different things. You can make ornaments. I'll laser cut the glass on shadow boxes, and that's so much easier than getting custom made glass, and you don't have to worry about it shattering during transportation. I use so I know I mentioned this before, but there's the plastic pin nails or the composite pin nails.
Mm-hmm.
I use those I even use those on wood when I CNC stuff out. It goes right through hardwood. It won't go through like Jatoba, but it'll go through like cherry wood and walnut, no problem. I don't know, man. I have to think about that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
What are you, Josh?
You kind of nailed a lot. I mean, because we do shadow boxes, let's put it that way, we do end up using materials not necessarily used by a lot of woodworkers. You already said acrylic. We use fabrics. Like I have a fabric cutter and a mat, you know what I'm saying? That makes my life a lot easier. It's not typical that I would know of in many people's repertoire. Let's see. I use my pin nailer, like you said, on the CNC. I don't know. There's probably a lot of little things that we do and don't even think about, to be completely honest.
Tim in the chat says he'll use like rubbery materials for odd shaped sandy blocks. It can be taken many ways, but I can see what he means. So you guys were talking about felt and stuff. Have you guys ever had a time when you're like using felt on your shadow boxes or anything, and you notice how like it gets super fuzzy when you're handling it and doing all that? So I had a security forces guy. Yeah, security forces guy tell me for their berets, when their stuff starts to get like frayed and like weird looking, they'll use a razor to actually shave the felt, and it takes off all the fuzzy and makes it completely flat. Which I was like, huh. Very interesting. I honestly would never have thought to use a razor for that, but it definitely has kept me from having to replace entire sheets of felt on projects, which is a pain in the rear.
Which I actually had to do this last project. I got some super glue on the top of the felt.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
I had to restart that whole process.
I use 3M spray adhesive to glue the corkboard down to the backer of a shadow box. And then I also use this. I found out that you can use the same spray adhesive for the felt.
Yep.
And it doesn't bleed through, and it doesn't get hard and nasty.
Yeah,
I used to use Elmer's glue.
That's a pain.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought, but I've always used the spray adhesive.
So Elmer's glue will work, and it doesn't get nasty. You just have to kind of spread it around and get it nice and even. But with the spray adhesive, it goes on. It's a lot faster now.
Oh yeah.
You know, through doing so many of them, you kind of develop your best practices.
So I've actually kind of run into a pinch before where I didn't have any spray adhesive, but I had a bottle of Mod Podge. That stuff actually spreads pretty easy and it soaks into the cork. I've used that before, and it's very even and it dries fast. Like if you don't put the felt down quick enough, you could be in trouble actually. But that's worked pretty well for me too.
Yeah, let's see. There's this.
I use a lot of what do you call it? Isopropyl alcohol.
Yep, I have a gallon of it. Actually, 2 gallons.
Was it rubbing alcohol, denatured alcohol, that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I use that stuff like it's crazy. And I like using denatured alcohol a lot better than mineral spirits.
Well, because denatured alcohol isn't like super, it's not really that corrosive, like where mineral spirits is kind of, and it'll like eat away at certain finishes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'm talking about like when I'm sanding and I grain pop, I won't use water. I'll use the denatured alcohol, and I'll douse a rag with it and rub down the wood. If I'm, obviously if I'm grain popping, and then after you're done, if you have any dust on there, all that extra dust and all that extra stuff comes off the wood. And you'll see if you like look at the rag, you have to keep flipping the rag or keep finding a new clean spot on the rag when you do that because it picks up so much stuff. But
My wife just put a comment in that's actually great for lasering. Baby wipes and magic erasers that gets rid of that overburn. So just isopropyl alcohol.
I use a 2-inch roller on some things. If I'm painting letters that are like not that are raised letters, and I just want to get the tops of them, I'll use a 2-inch roller. I also Matt Voltner turned me on to this product. I got it off Amazon. They're like sponge dabbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's like a sponge brush, but it doesn't have a bevel or anything to it. It's just flat on the bottom. And you just get your acrylic paint on there and you just dab. And it does a wonderful job of not going over the edges and getting it everywhere. So
I'd say there's a lot of tips and tricks, like not even just material. Like we kind of got into like the different tools and stuff we use, which is pretty cool. Because a lot of people, when they look at certain things, are like, how do they do that? Especially that dabbing thing. Because I'll be doing that here short. I actually was going to talk to one of you about that, but here we are talking about it now. I'll be doing some raised lettering type stuff as well. And well, with those stripes, in fact, for those little chief baby shadow boxes with the kids' military medal in it, it's blue, right? The whole thing's painted blue, but the stripes are raised, and those got to be painted white. So I was thinking of doing like the whole ore mask, or it's this thing called Avery mask, or whatever the heck it is, and doing that, and then painting it after the fact. I'm not really sure yet, but I'm definitely gonna probably try the dabbing method.
Yeah, there's always different ways to do things. I mean, finding the best one for your process is the hardest part.
here's something that I don't like to do, but it works, and you'll never know the difference when you do it. So have you ever been bingo on corkboard and you're like, son of a gun, I thought I had enough, right? Because you buy based off how many projects and your square footage and all that stuff that you're going to need. Well, you can marry two pieces together, and if you get that seam super, super tight, like I cut it on a table saw and I make sure that seam is super, super tight, you'll never know the difference. As long as the glue is in between that seam, you'll never know the difference.
What I've done for that, Nick, because I've also run into that issue, I actually just take a piece of painter's tape and go over the seam with it, because the painter's tape's so thin and the felt is fairly malleable. I've done that as well, and the seam is like, it's non-existent.
That's a good idea. I'll have to try that. You see, like, the hard part about doing something like that is, you don't want to waste materials. And so I thought about running tape over top before, and I was like, if it shows, I kind of F myself, because now the cork board is kind of not usable. Definitely the felt's not going to be usable because I have all this crap on it. But now that you've pioneered the way, I'll go ahead and start doing that.
Yeah, and it could be any painter's tape, really, because it's all fairly thin. And that, like I said, the felt's super malleable. So when you stretch that felt over it, you really don't notice. And then once you start putting the stuff in there, you definitely don't notice anything. And I typically keep my seams towards the edges too, if I can help it, because normally it's like it's just barely too short, or and then I'll cut like an inch off like the bigger piece and then marry the other one to it, so I'm not cutting like a 1-inch strip.
In the stripe too, depending how you do your box, I mean, you have that bottom piece essentially that, like, looking directly at it, you don't get to see that's in there, because I always drop my shadow box down just a little bit to make it easier for that box. So you always have that little pocket that, like, something like that, if you could see the seam, you're not going to see it down there.
What I started doing for like shadow boxes that have a flag in them, I would cut the corner tab, like a corner triangle off, or I'll put a Forstner bit through the backer. And so recently I started making the frames 2 7/8 inch thick instead of going 3 or higher. Then you get a lower profile on the box. The flag still fits, but you have to do a little bit of extra work. And that is when you're cutting your corkboard, you don't include the flag in the corkboard. You'll never see it from the outside unless you take the flag out, and it creates a lower profile on the box hanging off the wall. And with that little hole cut out in the back or the tab cut out in the back, you can get your finger in there. And once the screws are out, you can just pull the backer off to load it with all your stuff. So just little bits of things that, and like my process has evolved as well from, I used to cut everything on a table saw to fit. Now I do a lot of laser work to cut things, and then I'll sand edges, like especially the backers. But and then actually running screws into the back of the backer board, you have to pilot those holes. So I always build the frame, build the backer, I pilot the holes, and then I take the backer off and I countersink, and then I screw the number 8 1-inch screws into the frame through the backer, so it's like a one solid piece. Now, when you go to sand the outside of the shadow box frame, you don't have to worry about it collapsing on you because now you have a rigid structure holding it together. But
I usually
before
sand everything prior.
So that's cool, but then you're going to have glue squeeze out and you're going to have all that other crap.
Yeah, it's spot sanding versus a whole entire thing.
But it just saves on so much time. So check this out, Josh. Immediately after you cut here's my process start to finish on building the frame. I will always cut the frame before I dado anything.
Yep.
Before I put any sort of dados in there. I'll cut the frame, line it up, make sure the facade, it works with that facade. And once I get the angles and stuff right, I will go ahead and then I'll dado everything which needs to be dadoed. And then I'll sand the inside of the shadow box to my desired grit. And then I'll assemble with glue. And because I do it so I don't get squeezed out on the inside. I get squeezed out on the outside. I also use pin nails for that too. But I fill pin nails with glue and then I sand over it without the hose. So it kind of makes it look like it's natural. Yeah. So that's when I assemble everything with the backer board on it and then I sand the outside. And now what I have been doing is I take the backer off, take all the screws out, set the frame, like wipe it down real good with the denatured alcohol after it's sanded to its whatever grit inside and out. Obviously, while the backer's still in, I will go ahead and put my crossbar in for the flag that holds the flag up, but that's sanded as well. Glue it, pin nail it, pull the backer off, go ahead and finish the whole frame before I start the rest of the process.
So I'll do something like that too, Nick. When I make my cork insert or whatever, I'll actually take a pencil and I'll trace the inside. And then I know that, okay, I need to have like a 1/16 of an inch gap for the felt and everything to fit. That's how I end up making my inside portion for the felt and the cork inside piece.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So if you do your dados right and everything is, and your wood is like not wonky or it's all completely flat and you don't have like off angles that are like, you ever seen like you ever had it to where like one of the pieces of wood is kind of tilted inward because you pinned it wrong? But if you do it and everything is square, then you can place the corkboard face down on whatever work surface, and then place the entire frame over top of it, and then you just, with the outside of the frame, like the frame that's going to touch the facade, down onto the corkboard, trace it, and then it should just pop right in there after you spray it with that adhesive in that backer board's, if that backer board's in there.
So I do things a little different from what you guys. I mean, I do this almost the same process. I get it together. I make sure it all fits. I do the dados, and then I piece it together. I do this most of my sanding prior, but the difference is like for at least the chevrons, anything master and above, it's going to be almost the same backer. So I already have my cork board and my my backer already in my light burn profile, so I can cut that stuff out with the laser. So I don't really have to figure it too much. Yes, sometimes the wood leans a little left or a little right, and sometimes they don't line up exactly. But now we're talking about a small trim. Um, it is a good idea, like you're saying, Nick, to have the backer have it down for stable surface. Because I've done it in the past where I'm trying to finish it up, get that little bit of glue on the seams, and it's wobbly because I just glued it. I use pen nails as well, but I started finishing essentially once I got done sanding and getting all that dust off there. It's much easier to do that before you put it on the actual surface. And basically, once I finish that part, I bring that inside, and then I actually on the kitchen table, unfortunately, I'll put those two pieces together because I'm going to take out the inner film in my plexiglass inside here. That way, when I put it down, I don't have to try to get underneath the bar for the flag. And I don't have to try to do the cutting around the seam either. And that way, I'm not going to get any more dust. Because when I bring it in here, everything's already ready to go. And I finish the process in here. And it's definitely cut down on the amount of dust and stuff that gets inside. And I don't have to sit there and blow it out 10,000 times.
When you cut your plexi,
what's up?
Do you inlay it into the facade, or do you inlay it into the frame?
In the facade. So I have actually, basically, I cut a exact profile of the plexiglass, and I trace that out on the facade, and I manually router it because I don't trust myself to flip it over and use the CNC. I've had too many issues with that. So I just do a quick little bit rabbit in there, and then I use the Towboat UV glue, and it works perfect. I've only had one issue where during shipping the plexiglass, one corner got knocked out, and I just shipped them a small bottle of UV glue on my dime, and they fixed it, and they were completely happy with that. So
I found that, so I have a dado router bit that I use on a trim router.
Mm-hmm.
So before I put the crossbar in for the flag, I will dado the frame of the shadow box to the depth of the you got to do like a test cut, but find the depth of the plexi, which is typically an 1/8 inch. But there is different companies make plexi a little different, so it might be a slight variation. I will lay that entire piece of plexi onto the frame, and then I will glue around it with wood glue. I don't even hold the plexi in. It just stays by itself. I don't have to use any glue on the plexi. It's sandwiched in between the frame and the facade now. So,
I've done that before, and it works. There's nothing.
You use more plexi
it.
though.
No, not really. I've maybe just barely a 1/4 inch, if any, around the outside, and that's it. I don't need much. And I have it so that it's not a square that I'm using. It's to the shape of the actual hole because I'm using my laser. Long story short, we all have our processes that work. We could always change it up and get better as we do it. But it's one of those things where what works for you works for you. As long as the outcome is exactly what the customer wants and it's good quality, that's all we care about. So, but that's some of the stuff we do, and that's we kind of went down a rabbit hole. That was a good topic there, Nap, and I appreciate you taking that. But with that, I think we should wrap this up.
All right, folks. So we want to thank Daniel over at PWNCNC for sponsoring this episode and making it possible for us three to get here every Tuesday and bring you this content. So check them out at pwncnc.com, and buy something on the website. If you own a CNC machine, or if you need a dust boot or something, a clamp hold down or something like that, go to pwncnc.com, use promo code SAWDUSTNATION981, save 10% off your entire order. And tell Daniel that the boys from Sawdust Nation sent you. And next up, we want to thank TotalBoat for their continued support. If you're looking for a 10% off promo code for TotalBoat, go ahead and slide into the Sawdust Nation Podcast DMs on Instagram, and we will hook you up. And next, I would love to thank our affiliates, Makerstock.com, for supporting the podcast as well. So check them out. They've got all the acrylic we've been talking about. And for 10% off your order at makerstock.com, off your initial order, use promo code SAWDUST10. And last but not least, thanks to OMTech for their continued support. Now,
I'm muted. There we go. Hey, I'm back. Hey, so if you're getting to listen to us on the old Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, any of those places you listen to a podcast, go ahead and give us 5 stars. And if you don't, tell us why you didn't give us 5 stars so we can make sure that you get what you want and what you really, really want. I was trying to go with something else, but I couldn't think of anything. But, and if you do give us 5 stars, to give us some feedback, maybe some topic ideas, maybe some questions and those things. But also you could join us here live, if you're a patron, and you can give us stuff while we're talking. But if you're trying to get a hold of us, Josh, how do they get a hold of us?
Well, thank you, Nat, for passing that along. You can go ahead and get a hold of us on Instagram at Sawdust Nation Podcast. Go ahead and slide into our DMs asking us a question or just want to talk shop. You never knew who's going to answer, but that's half the fun. And then if you want to reach us individually with a question, you can go ahead and reach out to Nat from Naps Naughty Works LLC, Nick from MPG Creations, or myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. We're going to be happy to talk shop or answer those questions or even ask a question. You never know. We're learning too. If that's not enough or you don't like, Instagram or social media, go ahead and reach us at our email at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. You can basically do the same. Drop into our inbox, talk shop, ask questions, what have you. We'll be happy to talk to you and see what's up. We already hit on the Patreon, so we're going to go ahead with final words, starting with Nep.
Hey, folks, if you're listening to this episode, you're going to notice we actually dove into quite a bit of stuff as far as how we do things, maybe some best practices and those things. And that's our way of giving back to you all, making sure you guys have some of the best information, learning from our mistakes, being able to, use some of the tips and tricks, maybe save yourself a couple dollars when it comes to, making those projects, in your shop. Keep adding to the community by giving out that information, comment on things, give us feedback on our projects, maybe give us a better way of doing things. You never know, because we're always learning. No one's perfect in this thing we call making, but we only keep learning as if we keep helping each other out. So that's what I got. Nick, what you got, bud?
Well, like always, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, folks, the only difference between a genealogist and a gynecologist is that a genealogist looks up your family tree and a gynecologist looks up your family bush. Josh.
That was a good one.
Thank you for listening to the 124th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. We hope you tune in on your way to work, making a cup of coffee, having breakfast, at the gym, in the shop. We don't care where you're listening. We just want to whisper in your ear and talk shop. And with that, go make some sawdust and Sawdust Nation out.
Hey, speaking of woodworking, guys, you know who the world's first carpenter was? It was Eve, because she made Adam's banana stand.